Hello everybody, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to read from a file using the Java IO library. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to create a file, and I'm going to create a class that I'm going to call it read from file. And in this class I'm just going to add a public static void main, and a shortcut in IntelliJ to do this is psvm, and that's going to create, and you just click tab or enter, and it's just going to create a public static void main, an entry point in the application. And now before we start doing anything, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create the file that we want to open using the Java IO library. So I'll come here and I will add the file in the same package here where our class is. So I'm going to come here, I'm going to create a regular file, and I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to call it textfile.txt. And I'm just going to put a couple of lines in here, I guess. Let's say this is the first line. This is the second line. And this is the third line. So it's going to have third line. So it's going to have 3 lines inside, and we're going to try to open the file using Java and read it out. So that's going to be our goal for this video. So in order to open a file in Java, we have already a class for that, and it's called file, very conveniently called file. With Alt Enter, I'm going to import the class, and then I'm going to create a variable here, and I'm going to create a new instance of the file class. And the file class wants to get a path to the file. So we would have to somehow get the path to this file. An easy way to do this in IntelliJ is to right-click the file, to go on the copy, and then you copy the absolute path. So that's going to give us the absolute path to this file, and that's exactly what we want right now. I'm going to take the path and I'm going to put it as a string inside here. So there's the path to our file, to our text file. So now we have a file object in Java. Now what we have to do, we're gonna have to get it and put it in a stream. And in order to do that, we're gonna first have to create a file reader. A file reader is already built into the Java IO package, and we're gonna create a file reader out of this file. So we're creating a file reader out of the file that we just created. This will throw an exception, so with Alt and Enter we can add an exception to the method signature for the demonstration purposes right now. And we're not ready yet. Now we can use the buffered reader, which is an input stream reader in Java, and we can supply the buffered reader with this file reader. So that's exactly what we're going to do. I'm going to create a buffered reader, and I'm going to call it let's call it buffered reader. And I'm going to create a new buffered reader with the file reader that we just created. And now we are done. Now we can actually read the file. So now let's try to actually read the contents of the file. So firstly, I'm going to initialize a string variable. I'm going to call it line for each line of the file, and I'm going to initialize it to null. Then I'm going to create a while loop, a very standard while loop, where I'm going to create something pretty interesting. I'm going to say that line is going to be equal to the buffered reader.readLine, and then while this doesn't return null. So read every line as long as it doesn't return null. When it returns null, that's when we're going to exit the while. So that means that we're on the last line, and we don't have to read anything else. The read line also throws an IO exception, so we're going to have to add exception. We can add it to the method signature for these demonstration purposes. And now in the line variable, so what's going to happen right now? In each turn of the while, in each cycle of the while, we're going to be reading a new line from our file using the buffered reader, and that line is going to be in the line variable, and then we can use that variable however we want. For the demonstration purposes, I'm just going to print it out to the screen using the system.println. A handy shortcut in IntelliJ is south if you want to quickly write out the system.println. And right here, I'm just going to print out the line. But you can do everything. You can do whatever you want with the file. So this is how you open a file. This is how you put it in a file reader, then in the buffered reader. And this is how you read that file using the buffered reader and the readLine method. So we're going to print it out here. And what we should expect these 3 lines to come out in the console. So now I'm going to run the application. I'm going to click here and I'm going to say run. And when the application starts, we should get the 3 lines printed in the console. So we're going to wait for it to build. And after it builds and starts, we should see the 3 lines printed out. And that's how do we open a file and how we read it in Java. So there it is. As you can see, the application finished. And we have the first line, the second line, and the third line from the file. They're getting read from the file and they're getting printed out in the console. So that's going to be it for this tutorial. I hope you learned something new and see you until next time.